Yeah, I've really come to love this this whole process of finding out what Yogacara is about. And there's a lot of material out there online, uh, much more so than when I first became interested in it. So once you get interested, you can just really delve very deeply into it. Um, I'd like to start out tonight referring to the timeline that Reverend Master Daisui put together years and years and years ago and shared with the lay ministers at a retreat at some point. Um, and you'll find if you look any of these dates up yourself, you'll find many variations of them. Um, so the dates on the left-hand side are at this point kind of tentative. I think he did the best he could, and this was probably in the 90s or 80s. So now there's been a lot more research, and so some of these dates have changed. But the important sequence of how this teaching has come down to us is very valid. And some important things I wanted to point out, some things that have been important to the development of Mahayana Buddhism are after Shakyamuni's death, the disciples, the senior disciples got together and decided they'd better write or they'd better make sure that his teachings that they remember are somehow put together and saved. Well, of course, the way people uh, found out information and memorized information was orally. There was no written language. So the first time they got together after the Buddha died, um, I think Ananda was the one who recited all of the rules of the Buddha's disciples as he remembers Buddha talking about it. Another senior monk recited and the monks committed to memory all of the teachings of the Buddha, aside from rules of the order, but the teachings. And there was another senior monk who um, recited things that were of more esoteric nature. So they were all in agreement with that. And then time went by, quite a bit of time. As you can see on the left in the timeline, there was a second conference because people had different impressions of what should have been included. Um, so there was what was called a second council, uh, maybe 500 years after that, 400 years after that. Um, and at that point, some people had become very, very sure that what had been written down was correct and there was to be no changes at all. And other people said, no, some of these rules about behavior, about food and how you make your bed and that kind of thing are kind of not necessary. So there was a division. Uh, what became the Mahayana school went to the left, as you see on that chart, and what became the Theravadan were on the right. So during that time, from that following that red line down, uh, you can see Vasubandhu, somewhere in the middle there, somewhere around 300 AD, you see Vasubandhu's name and his half-brother, Asanga. They were the ones who had been studying Yogacara for quite some time and had written about it. Above that, I can't quite read that name. The red line is in the, okay. Pam, I need to lower that a little bit. Thank you. Between the Mahasanghikas up at the top and the Mahayanas, quite a bit of time had passed. And so during that time, there was a new sutra written that had parts in it that became related to Yogacara. The sutra is called Samdhi Nirmokana Sutra. And it caught the attention to a number of monks, and they started looking at it and started teaching from it. By the time Vasubandhu and Asanga came along, we're looking at trying to move the yes. By the time Vasubandhu came along was about 400 AD. There had been quite a bit written already about Yogacara. And he became very interested in it, whereas before he was writing about the other important school in Buddhism, which became Theravadan. He combined that early Buddhist teaching with the Mahayana in terms of, he took the more strict teaching of the early Buddhism and brought it forward and mixed it with a little bit of Mahayana, especially having to do with emptiness and the Heart Sutra. He felt that with having both of them together, that it would help people more. So that is the beginning of Yogacara. It's a combination of early Buddhist teaching and Mahayana teaching of emptiness and compassion. There's not, it's not that one school is better than the other. It's that they approach things from different standpoints. Vasubandhu was the 21st ancestor in our lineage after Buddha. Before I want to say anything about the three natures, I want to say something about Yogacara itself, because the three natures are a teaching that comes out of Yogacara literature. And most of my information is coming from Connolly's tapes and his two books, Vasubandhu's Three Natures, and the red book inside Vasubandhu's Yogacara. Connolly defines two areas of Yogacara that are very important in understanding what it's about. One is the structure of consciousness, and the second one is the nature of phenomenon. Early Buddhism was very interested in the mind. In fact, the Buddha himself in the Dhammapada, there are many, many things that the Buddha had to say about the mind. And so early Buddhism emphasizes a study of the mind in terms of its characteristics, what they believe to be the characteristic. It's very philosophical in a way. Yogacara continued that study of the mind in a somewhat different way. They were very interested in two types of mind. One they called a simple mind, which had to do with thinking, analyzing, categorizing. Yogacara thought more of the mind in terms of how did it relate to karma? What's going on in the mind in terms of relationship to objects, to other beings, to other people, what happens in the mind. Why do we have emotional reactions to things? So there was a more, instead of so analytical, Yogacara becomes a little bit more humanistic, I feel, in thinking about how the mind works. So one of their big contributions about how the mind works is putting together like a map of consciousness, if I can find it here. It's quite common for our culture to think of us having, that humans have five senses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Buddhism added mind. So Buddhism says there's six senses. Yogacara added two more to that and says that there are eight consciousnesses, eight senses, eight ways of, in a way, organizing our experience. So Yogacara adds to those six. Within most all Buddhist schools say that there are six senses. Yogacara says that number six they call manas, M-A-N-A-S. And that is where, let me start with number eight. It's easier for me to do that. The eighth consciousness is called the alaya, and that's also called, that means the storehouse. And that aspect of the mind is what all of our experience, each of us has this bundle of experience from the time of birth, at least. And those experiences are within the storehouse. Remember, this is a theory. I'm not telling you absolute truth. So within the storehouse are kept these seeds of our previous experiences, all of our memories, our thoughts, our fears, everything that we have experienced in our lives, at least. When we are out and about, we have a new experience. The seeds that are in the alaya drop down and meet those experiences, and we experience a karmic reaction. It is the generator of karma, this relationship between the seeds of previous experiences interacting with a new experience. So what we experience in the world is based on previous fears, angers, delusions. So with that in mind, the thing that relates to, that old experiences uniting with a new experience and causing your emotional reaction to it. That relates to that first of the three natures. What is real? What's reality? Are we really experiencing what's going on, or are we experiencing what our previous fears, angers, happinesses, delusions are bringing to the forefront because of this new experience? That's why Yogacara says that in the three natures, the first is imaginary. We are not really seeing what's going on because we are clouded with our previous experiences in our lives. And the second nature is called the interconnectedness. It relates to the interconnectedness of all beings, of all forms. That when you see an object, you see it in relationship to other objects around it. You are seeing the result of something that's occurred over time. You're seeing it because of all the things that have gone into it to make it that object that you're looking at, or that person. So those are two natures, the imaginary and the interconnected nature, the compound nature. The third nature is that which is indescribable, is unknowable, that exists everywhere in everything. And those are the three natures that so much has been written about, that is part of the Yogacara understanding of how things work. I just re-listened to Ben Connolly's talk that he gave to Upaya. And he says in it that one of the things that he's found most helpful is, together with meditation, this practice brings to light things that come up in him that he can refrain from, that help him become a little bit more compassionate in his actions and his speech. And I find that to be very, very true. And during meditation, I can more readily see things in my past that are affecting me and people around me in very negative ways. And when I can see that and step back from it, then things don't get out of hand so readily. Another thing that I like about it is that it, for some reason, I don't know why, it frees me from what I always felt as a huge burden of the bodhisattva aspect of practice. I always felt it was just way too grand and not ordinary enough for me to relate to it. And this kind of takes it out of that category into a more human realm for me, where I can see myself in relationship to the work that this all takes. I also like the role that it gives the self. I feel like that whole relationship between the seeds dropping down from the storehouse and making themselves known in the kind of the compost of karma, that it gives myself, instead of being something that I want to get rid of or to tamp down, it makes myself in charge of my behavior and my practice a little bit more strongly. I think that's gives you an idea.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy.